for joining us, and welcome to this is our fourth webinar as part of the IGAD Coffee Break webinar series. As Emma just said, I'm Chelsea Scalise. I am a communication specialist at FOW, and I feel like I know a lot of you from emails and all that, and I will be your moderator today. If this is your first time attending one of our IGAD Coffee Break webinars, we've had some great presentations so far, which have allowed for some nice dialogue at the end. So we do encourage you to ask questions or provide comments. You can definitely use the chat box during the presentation, but afterwards we'll definitely leave time for you to ask those questions to our presenter. And also to let you know, this webinar will be recorded and then posted to the RDA YouTube channel once we're complete. So without further ado, I would like to introduce today's speaker, Gui Wright from F1000Research. Gui is currently the physical sciences publisher for F1000Research and is going to present to you today about supporting open data in agriculture with F1000Research. So over to you.
Thanks, Chelsea, and thanks to the whole committee as well for allowing me to speak today. I will just share my screen. Great. So, yeah, thank you, everybody.
Oh, we can't see your screen. Sorry.
Interesting. Hang on. Bear with me.
There we go.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes, good, great. Sorry, always a technical mishap. Let's see. Great, hopefully that's okay. Thanks.
Perfect, yes.
Great, excellent. So yeah, thanks everybody. Really appreciate taking the time to come and listen to a short presentation today. Just introducing F1000Research and how we support open data in agriculture. So as Chelsea said, I'm the physical sciences publisher at F1000, responsible for the sort of strategic approach that we take for developing content in the physical sciences and just generally building collaborations within the wider research community as well. So I'll just give you a brief introduction to F1000Research, the publishing model, before then looking maybe in a bit more detail about how this supports open data. So on F1000, we're a publishing company which embraces the vision that you see here, which is to empower researchers, advance knowledge and engage society. And we were the first publisher to truly embrace open research publishing with the launch of our post-publication transparent peer review model, which combines the opportunities offered by technology with a real passion for sort of identifying new ways to validate and share research. So F1000 publishes our own research platform, as well as other research platforms on behalf of partners such as the European Commission and the Gates Foundation and many others as well. And I'll just note that we were actually acquired by the Taylor and Francis group in 2020. So we're actually now part of a wider publishing family, which is increasingly embracing open research. So F1000Research, which is F1000's own research platform, was launched in 2013. And it was really with a goal to rethink the scholarly communication system. So we wanted to speed up and share the sort of sharing of research, improving transparency and reproducibility, as well as reducing traditional barriers to publishing as well. So the platform looks and feels very much like an online open access journal. It features scholarly articles reporting basic scientific, translational, clinical research across the physical sciences, as well as life sciences, engineering, medicine, social sciences and humanities as well. And the platform is really built on these several key principles, and they're really all designed to enable a shift to open research and open science, and supporting all aspects of the research journey. So very much like a preprint server, we publish articles immediately and then follow this with invited transparent peer review following publication. So we publish a wide range of research articles, so not just traditional research and reviews, but also sort of non-traditional article formats as well. And we have an open data policy for all articles as well. In addition to that, we offer the option for authors to publish revised and updated versions of their articles, both during and after peer review, which are all linked together online as well. And we also encourage the publication of studies that are null or negative, as well as any reproducibility studies. And we don't have any specific thresholds for articles to require to demonstrate, say, novelty or significance. We're only asking for articles to be original, good quality and rigorous, essentially. So just to explain the detail of the publishing model, going from left to right here. So on submission, each paper is checked by our in-house editorial team for sort of suitability and eligibility, and that includes checks for things like ethical issues, plagiarism, and adherence to reporting guidelines. And importantly, that it checks that the underlying data and methods are made available as well. So once the article has passed these sort of fairly strict criteria, it's then sent to our typesetters and can be published online in as quick as 2 weeks. Any of those articles that are published are clearly marked as being awaiting peer review, and they'll be assigned a DOI. So they're actually immediately available and citable for the wider community, including being indexed in Google Scholar. So similar to a preprint, but where you've committed to undergoing the rest of the peer review process with F1000Research. Once published, the peer review stage is initiated. That's sort of third step there. And this is a process that's led by the authors. So they propose reviewers, or they can seek suggestions. And those suggestions are then checked by our in-house editorial team for any conflicts of interest, and to ensure they meet our criteria. And then they invite those reviewers to review the article. Any reports that are received are then actually published online, including the reviewers' names and their affiliations, with all the reviews checked by our editorial team before publication. And those reviewers are asked to only really focus on the technical aspects and the soundness of the research in that paper. So they provide a written report as well as one of 3 statuses, which hopefully you can see in the top of the third step there, the green tick and the question mark and the red cross. And these represent statuses of being approved, approved with reservations, or not approved, respectively. So after these have come in, authors can then choose to revise their paper. They address and respond to any reviewer concerns, and then provide any new versions, which are then, as I say, published online as well, and then sent back to the reviewers for further comments if necessary. And the final step here is for articles to pass peer review and be subsequently sent to relevant indexes and repositories. You need either 2 approved or 1 approved and 2 approved with reservation statuses from reviewers. And it's at this point that the article is then further indexed in major databases such as Scopus or Crossref and so on. It's just worth noting that even after this process is considered complete, authors can continue to submit revised or updated versions, each of which is independently citable and linked to one another. And that's to ensure that their article is more dynamic, more living than you might find in traditional journals. And the publishing model here as a whole has been specifically designed to enable research to be as discoverable, usable and reusable as possible, and to maximize the impact that each individual article can have. And we do believe that this model combines the benefits of preprints with the rapid publication that offers, along with the quality assurance that peer review provides. Another major benefit of the platform is the range and flexibility of the article types that we make available for authors. So as well as being able to publish regular research articles and reviews, we do have other research article types such as method articles, software tools, data notes, and many others. And the idea here is that we're aiming to reduce research waste and reduce the overemphasis and focus on the traditional primary research article as the main vehicle to share results of research. We do also hope it provides greater recognition and credit for authors and also other research staff producing other types of articles which might otherwise go unpublished. So moving on to data, the policy we have at F1000Research across the platform requires that for any articles reporting original results, authors should provide access to that source data which underlines those results, as well as any details of software which is required to process or reproduce those results. So they're required to provide details of where that data is hosted when they submit their article to the platform. And as a framework for this, we actually endorse the FAIR data principles, which I'm sure everyone has heard, but just as a reminder, they are that data is findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And I'll just go over a bit later about how our policies for authors supports those FAIR data principles as well. It's worth just noting that submitting authors who are unable to provide the source data for publication without a reasonable justification, that's probably our most common reason we find for articles being rejected or unable to be published on the platform. So just in a bit more detail in terms of the article data policies that we have and how they work in practice. So as mentioned, we do require that authors need to provide open access to that data supporting articles, and it's under the guiding principle of being as open as possible and as closed as necessary. And this is done for a variety of reasons, which benefit both the authors and the wider community, including things like increasing data reuse, improving data integrity, and obviously enabling reproducibility as well. So to facilitate this, and where it's possible to do so, we ask authors to deposit their data in a stable and recognised open repository under a liberal Creative Commons license prior to submitting the article to the platform. Those repositories would normally be subject specific, and we do have a list of approved repositories on the website. Each article would then include a data availability statement which describes the route for access for either reviewers or readers to that underlying data, as well as any details of, say, software, code, or other tools or methods that were used in the generation of the results. And then in terms of software availability, we do ask that authors state the version of the software used and the details of where it can be accessed. So that could be, say, for example, on an outlet like GitHub for software or an equivalent space. But if that is used, we also ask for a sort of permanent archived version stored somewhere in a repository such as Zenodo as well. And then we do make exceptions for reasonable situations where data can't be shared, which I'll just move on to now. So in terms of that, we allow a few scenarios where data might not be available or only available under certain restrictions. And in those instances, details of those restrictions need to be provided within that data availability statement just to be really transparent for readers. So those might include situations such as ethical and security considerations, data protection or confidentiality, very large data or third-party licensed data as well. So for those scenarios, the principle we apply is for all articles to include the necessary information required for a reader or a reviewer to access that data by the same route, by the same means as the author did. And we apply those same principles and exceptions to software written as part of the analysis of the article as well. And generally our advice is if you're unsure about your specific situation to your article, you just get in touch with our editorial office before submitting, and they can advise as well. So the one option we don't have available is to state that the data is available upon request from the reader. I know that's a very common option available for authors of many other journals, but it's not an option that we provide. And again, that's just to maximise the availability of data for the benefit of the wider research community. Just to mention as well that we do have some really lovely functionality for authors and readers online, such as code and data visualizations, as well as reanalysis tools within the articles themselves, which is really great for interacting with the articles online. And obviously we do also offer the option to publish standalone data and software descriptions as well. So these articles can allow authors to provide brief descriptions or rationales or use cases of data sets or software without the need to provide additional analysis and conclusions. So in practical terms, if you were to consider submitting to F1000Research and after preparing and sharing the data on a repository, the next steps would be just highlighted here, which is to add that data availability statement and ensure that the data are then linked back to the article once it's published. So the first step of that in the data availability statements, hopefully you can see some examples here. So these are taken from articles published online. As I've mentioned, the data availability statement shouldn't refer readers and authors or reviewers to contact the author themselves to obtain that data, but should instead include very specific details on how to find that data, essentially. So for example, if there's repository hosted data. We ask that authors include the name of the repository, the license, along with any relevant details, which might vary dependent on the article type or the data type, sorry, and the repository type that you've used. But typically that would be, say, the repository name, the title of the data, and the DOI of the data set. So hopefully you can see in this example, but the authors have detailed the availability of different sources here. So on the left-hand side here, and in this example, they've actually given description of where some of the data is restricted due to ethical concerns. And there's also, a nice example here of using the CC, Creative Commons, and equivalent licenses for data and software. And we do give advice on how to format these statements again online. So the final step after doing this, obviously, is then going back to the article and or back to the data, sorry, once the article's been published, and updating that data set with the DOI of the article themselves, so they've got reciprocal links as well. And just to give you an idea about how the format of these data availability statements helps to ensure that the author's data is meeting that fair data principle or requirements. So in terms of findable and accessible, just a couple of examples here of where there's metadata tags, which are very easy to find, and it's also easy to access. So these are DOIs in these examples here, which give details of where the data sets are available. In terms of being interoperable with the data available to be integrated into other data sets, there's an example here of using a CSV file type to meet this requirement. And finally, reusable, which is enabled here by the choice of license for the data and software used, which again facilitates reuse really easily. So we do have a lot of resources and help online. This is a real difficult and detailed area of academic research. We appreciate that. So the first place we've got is our data guidelines, which is just on the left here. Again, you can find a detailed description of the sort of step-by-step walkthrough of sharing your data, which I've sort of given a very brief overview of today. And if you're interested in submitting but aren't sure if you're able to meet those open data requirements or otherwise have any questions, again, we encourage authors to send an inquiry to our editorial team at the email address here. We've then also got an additional resource, which is our Open Data Toolkit page, and that's a real wealth of information and resources. It's got various tips and guides and advice on a whole range of topics, from data collection through to file type formats, licenses, choosing repositories, and so on. So definitely, if I'm leaving with nothing else today, it would be to probably follow up on that webpage in particular and have a look through the range of resources there. And hopefully they'll be of use as well. So just to finish, I wanted to mention one specific area of the F1000Research platform, which hopefully is of interest to the group on this call today, and that's the Agriculture and Food and Nutrition Gateway. So Gateway really is a section of the platform which is specific to a particular theme of research. So this seeks to provide an outlet to publish all research basically focused on agriculture, food and nutrition, and to do so in a rapid, transparent and open way. So previously this gateway had focused very specifically on the GODAN and IGAD FAO initiatives for open data in agriculture. But now it's just been adapted and opened up a little bit and is open to any submissions. It's actively seeking submissions to anyone working across these kind of subject areas. And obviously focuses on key topics and challenges within food and agriculture. So that would include land use, agronomy, crops, biogeochemistry, all sorts of different areas basically, as well as specifically open data challenges in agriculture as well. And we do have 2 advisors currently helping to oversee and advise on the strategy for the gateway. That's Catherine Bailey from GODAN and Emma as well, who's here on this call from the FAO as well. So as I mentioned, anyone can submit to these gateways, and it's a great place to publish to boost the visibility of your research, as well as the availability of the underlying data. But if you did want to know more about them, I'd obviously be very happy to follow up with anyone separately or answer any questions after this call as well. So that's everything I had to present today. So thanks once again for listening. My contact details are up here in case it's helpful. Hopefully this was a useful introduction to F1000Research, and again, how we can support the aims of increasing open access, open data, and just generally open research in collaboration with the agricultural and food research community. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We want to open the floor now. If anyone has any questions, any comments, I think you should have the ability to unmute yourself, but if you don't, please feel free to raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Questions. Ah, there we go. Let me unmute you. Oh, go ahead.
First of all, thank you for this nice presentation and the useful information for us. I have a questions regarding how can we join to this platform as an institution or as author, also as a researcher, also, or it is very similar as in Agris. The providers can be only the institution.
So in terms of interaction with the platform, it's a good question, thank you. Yeah, there's probably several different ways to do that. The easiest one really is as an author to actually submit work, potentially research work or otherwise to the platform. Obviously, that's the primary way that we tend to interact with individuals. Can also do so as a reviewer as well. So we have the ability to sign up as a volunteer to review in the same way that you might find at other journals as well. So that's another nice way to sign up. We at the institutional level, we have a couple of different options. We do have the ability to have a gateway space. So in a similar way to the agriculture gateway, we have equivalent spaces for institutions where they can partner with us essentially and have their own branded space on the website, where, you know, again, we can gather all of the research that comes out of that particular institution. So we definitely have that option. That's one way to engage with us. The other way is through being affiliated with one of the gateways that already exist. So as a good example here, the agriculture, food and nutrition one, which is a thematic gateway. So obviously it's open to everybody to submit to in the same way that you might have a journal that focuses on agriculture or food issues. But we do have the option for institutions to, you know, for example, if they share the aims of the platform, if they have ambitions to increase the availability of data or just the availability of research in an open access world, then they can become affiliated with that gateway. And there is the idea there is that we, and GoDan is a good example there. So GoDan are affiliated with the agriculture gateway. So they obviously have a little bit of presence on that gateway. It makes it clear that they're affiliated with it. And in return for that, GoDan will advertise the gateway to their membership and the people that they interact with, their networks, to advertise it as a particular space where they might choose to submit their research. So there's a few different ways basically to interact, right from the scale of an individual author or researcher through to an institutional level as well. Does that help a bit?
Sorry.
Hopefully that helps.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Looks like we have another question. Veronica or Ima, can you unmute Multisera for me? There we go.
Yes, thank you very much. So during your presentation, you showed that there are many article types, and you also mentioned reports. So I would like to know if there is a format for each article types, or if we are free to submit the specific case reports in the format we would like to.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Thank you. So the answer is both, actually. So what we do is we have a principle of just being very flexible, but providing support to authors where we need to. So we have a specific web page online which lists all of the article types, and then if you click into each one, it gives a suggested format. So it provides advice and instruction on the typical elements that we would expect to see in that particular article, for example. So it sort of describes the requirements that we might see, for example, for a case study, a case, or a method article or something like that. So it describes what the purpose of the article is, the typical things that we would expect to see in those articles in terms of what information should be in there and any other requirements. But ultimately, how you structure the article, say in terms of which sections to include, or the order, or anything else to do with the format, basically, that's very, very flexible, and we essentially leave it up to the authors as to best judge exactly how they would want to do that. So you're absolutely right in saying that if you have research already that's in a specific format or a specific type, then you should be able to just submit that automatically in that same format, as long as it includes any of the materials that we normally require. But most of that is around the availability of data. So as long as you have the data availability statement and an abstract, and the rest of the article is written in a clear way that it's obvious to authors, it's very well written, then otherwise you're free to have the flexibility to use the format that you best wish to, basically.
Thank you very much. I do have another question, if I may. So I went on the website a couple of days ago, and I saw that you developed initially for the medical clinical community, and now you're making this presentation for the agro-food community. So I would like to know how many people do you have in your community that are representative of agricultural research?
Yeah, very good question. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I probably should have said that in my presentation. So previously, you're right, F1000Research was launched mainly to support the life sciences and medical science communities, but now, yeah, we're shifting towards representing all areas of research and development, basically. So and that obviously includes agriculture and food and related communities as well, say within earth and environmental science more broadly. So we do our main network at the moment is through that agriculture gateway. So we have, as I say, 2 advisors so far that help oversee that, but we're actually seeking additional representation from the community to sit on that advisory group and help define the strategy of that gateway. We've published, I think, more than 100 articles, probably closer to 130 in that gateway themselves. So we've got quite a lot of authors who have already sort of joined the community, if you like, through that system, and as an extension as reviewers as well. So we have a larger group now that are joining, and we're also looking to expand the advisory board of the F1000 platform itself. So there is some overlap between the advisory board of the platform and the advisors of the specific gateways that we have, but we are seeking greater representation as well from the agriculture and wider earth and environment community as well. So yeah, we're actively seeking people to be more involved. So it's sort of starting small with the agriculture gateway, but over time we're looking to really reach out to more people and embed ourselves into the wider community, over time.
Thank you.
All right, we're going a little over time, which is totally okay. I just want to see if anyone has any last couple of questions before we close for today. I don't see any hands raised. Well, thank you so much, Kim, for your presentation. We really appreciate it. And yes, I see a question in the chat, and we will, this has been recorded, so this will be posted to the RDA YouTube channel within the next couple of days. Look out for it. But thank you again, Kim. And just so you know, so this is an ongoing series. So our next webinar will be September 22nd. So please look out for details. We will distribute that to the IGAD community. It'll be posted on our About Aims website and all of that. So we hope to see you all all there in a couple weeks. So thank you for being here, and thank you, Guillaume.
Thanks, Chelsea. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.